and bass. So if you've ever sung the solo sections in this, then shoot me an email, because I'd like you to do it in June as well. This evening's recording is a live version from the Southall Music Festival in 2015. We might also hear the Hogwood version. I was going to do for you Wakefield Cathedral Choir, but it's so slow. We're not going to use Wakefield, so we'll use the Southall Music Festival version. When we get to tea time, I'd like you to have your rehearsal pencil and a piece of paper to write down a shopping list, if you wouldn't mind, please, for next week. And I'll tell you over our cup of tea a little bit more about what we're doing next week. We're going to think about Mediterranean music and hopefully also eat Mediterranean food, which is where the shopping list will come in handy. And obviously, if you've got a Waitrose handy, I think the Waitrose in Teignmouth closed down and the Waitrose in Torbay closed down as well.
True.
I might be using the Wade Bridge Food Bank, and I can guarantee that I won't be able to get all my ingredients from there. So let's now go straight to what you printed out. It's in the Schirmer score, page 14, coincidentally number 14, page 14, and we'll attune our minds to it by listening to the whole recording. I've tried to get the levels right so it won't distort for you. Join in if you like. Yeah, everybody's muted. If you don't want to join in, just listen, which will show you what our goal is over the next half an hour. There's a little recitative for the tenor that precedes the Heavens Are Telling. So here's the recit.
The space immense of the azure sky, in your soul.
Can you give me a thumbs up if the sound is good for you? Yes.
And the sons of God announce the fourth day in song divine, proclaiming thus his power.
Should have this as a cue. All the words are different.
While night unto night his glory proclaims, while night unto night his glory proclaims.
This is definitely it now. that task. Now you can hear there why I've chosen this one, and you can imagine my delight when doing a little bit of preparation and trying to find the best version. I was thrilled to find this. It sounds like a recording. It's a live concert, and it's unbelievable to think that it's a choral society. The conductor is somebody who has become a friend of mine on Twitter. He's called Marcus Farnsworth, and he's founded the Southern Music Festival 6 years ago, and he's one to watch out for in years to come. So let's split this piece down into two sections, and it hangs on the tempo change. It opens in a very elegant tempo, but when we get to the più allegro, it's marked tutti più allegro, crotchet equals 144 on page 16. Suddenly the whole work takes off. We'll split this in half then. We'll work on the first half first. That's an unusual thing for me. I normally do second halves first. So it's the first two pages, page 14 and 15. Hopefully it is in the same key as the piano, which is good. Let's run, first of all, sopranos and altos. Please make sure you're muted. So that's our first phrase, sopranos and altos. Just to be clear about this, the reason I didn't choose the Wakefield Cathedral Choir version is because they do it in 4. Nobody does it in 4, it's always in 2. So 1, 2. And we'll just look at the tenor and bass parts. I'm sure that every one of us has sung this before, but really, it's such a great chorus, isn't it? Let's just put all of that together. And 1, 2. Just separating out once more, sopranos and altos. 1, 2. And the tenors and basses, 1, 2, the heavens. And all parts together, 1, 2, the. And we'll just move on and do it phrase by phrase. But as you can see the way it's printed, we have lots of crotchets, and I've sifted through so many YouTube videos and I've discarded the ones that are very crotchet centric, and I've been far more interested in the ones. John Hobbs and I agree very much on phrasing in Baroque and classical music, and it's never about feeling crotchets. If you've ever sung in West Gallery music, it can be very attractive. Down here in Cornwall, there's a composer called Thomas Merritt. But if you like reading Thomas Hardy novels, very often the churches of Dorset had these West Galleries, and West Gallery music. Some hymn tunes are in the West Gallery style, where you have lots of crotchet fugues with all sorts of lots of interest, but to sing it in that style would do it a great disservice. Let's look at the next phrase. This is sopranos and altos, line 2, 1, 2. Oh, let's go once more. Now the tenors and basses, 1, 2. Feeling a very elegant 2 in a bar. So all together, 1, 2. So all of that, we won't do the bars rest. We'll do a cut. So from the beginning, 1, 2. the next phrase I think is the same actually. Let's just go straight on then to line 3, 1, 2. We'll just hear the tenors, well, not here, but for your own peace of mind. Line 3, tenors and basses. 1, 2. Wonders of his work, displays the firmament. And the altos and sopranos. 1, 2. All of those 3 lines then. 1, 2. And the next phrase, which we're going to do twice. 1, 2. And the next section. Now, I think what we need to do is go straight back then to hear that then with the orchestra. It's probably about now.
His power.
Do that a few times.
In song divine, proclaiming thus his power.
My piano's final time before we move on.
Now the 4th day in song divine, proclaiming thus his power.
Let's look at the cues.
All day unto day is speaking his praise. By night unto night his glory proclaims. By night unto night his glory proclaims.
Which takes us now to the next section. So this is on page 15, and then we've learnt the first part of the chorus. Let's look first of all at what the basses do. Let's have that as our waypoint. So basses straight in. Now, the heavens are telling the glory of God, the wonder of his work, the wonder of his work displays the firmament. And the consonant there on the second beat. Let's have a look at the tenor part. So straight in now. The heavens are telling the glory of God, the wonder of his work displays the firmament, displays the firmament. Both of those underneath parts together, tenor and bass. And 1, 2. is the consonant on the second beat. Let's have a look at the soprano and alto parts. Have a listen first of all. Now, I've not done you any favours by putting both parts together because there's some part crossing. So first of all, here's the soprano part. Sing with me, please, sopranos. And 1, 2. Very straightforward on its own, but I've known sopranos who are very competent, loyal and faithful singers in other choirs who always just sing the alto part every time it goes above them. And it's an easy mistake to make. It's for the audience to enjoy, but not for you to do. So sopranos once more, 1, 2, 3. Displays the firmament. The key moment on the second line is your octave leap. Wonders of his work. And what helps you when you're in rehearsal or concert with the basses behind you is they come up in thirds with you. We're tenths. So the basses actually guide you, really. So once more, all of that. There's another part crossing moment in the top line. The audience will hear this melody. No, I'm not going to play it to you because then you might be tempted to sing it. But listen to your arpeggio, ladies. Easy when you don't have altos to muddy the waters. 1, 2. Here's your part. And 1, 2, the heavens are telling the glory of the wonder of his. Now there's an example of how you could easily lapse into a West Gallery style. If you look at your second line altos, the wonder of his work. Don't be tempted to detach those crotchets and slam into all of them. Be very musical. The stress is only on the first beat and the second minim. The wonder of his work displays the firmament. So we'll have sopranos and altos, top of 15, and go now. All parts then. Tenors and basses and the altos and sopranos. From the top of the page, 1, 2. Let's put the orchestra with it. You're straight in. From where I paused it. Let's go now. We'll just do that a few times, and what I'll do is I'll highlight, first of all, the alto part, and then I'll highlight the soprano part. Should be about here. And now with a highlighted soprano part.
It proclaims by night until night his glory to the land.
Oh, now let's just look at what we have to do next, because once we reach the bottom of 15, oh, I know what I did wrong. It's 34 bars rest at the end of 15. I read that as 14. So 34 bars rest. So the last phrase to get into those solos, bottom line of 15, and we'll pick it up from the basses. We'll build it up from the basses. Now, if you were a West Gallery singer, you'd have a bassoon right next to you, and you'd sing the wonder of his work. The wonder of his work displays the firmament. Be as musical as you can with this. So when we come together in Central Church to sing this with the organ, it will sound lovely and not like it will sound lovely, I know. So basses. Starting the bar we come in, 1, 2. The wonder of his work displays the firmament. Tenors, have a listen to this. It's finding your first note. You've already sung displays the firmament, and you have to pitch up to here the wonder of. Very beautiful phrase. So here's the tenor starting note. 1, 2. The wonder of his work displays the firmament. Both parts together. 1, 2. Off. Let's have a look at the altos only. And 1, 2. It's very important we place our consonants together. Let's have the sopranos only. Little Haydn touch there, going up to the C sharp. So have a listen once more. Almost as if there's a crescendo composed into that line. Sopranos only. Oh, actually, sopranos and basses, why not? And 1, 2. Different rhythm for tenors and basses. Firmament, and ladies, firmament. So let's have all parts then. Altos, tenors, and 1, 2. Basses and sopranos there. 1, 2. Let's do the whole of that page then, page 15. 1, 2. Forget where I paused, but I think we should be ready to hear that last line with the orchestra. Here it is. Let's just hear that once more. Middle line. Don't be put off by the fact that all the words are different. Oh, Sheila and Andrew need to be let in. I'll just Oh, somebody's let them in. Hello, Sheila and Andrew. Welcome. We're in the middle of The Heavens Are Telling. What we'll do now is we'll go back to the end of the recit, and we'll just cement those 2 pages with the orchestra, and I'll give you a taster of what's yet to come. The second half is much more difficult. So here's the end of the recit.
Announce the 4th day in song divine.
Ready?
Proclaiming thus his power.
One, two. One, go. So you have the soprano cue.
All day until day is speaking his praise. While night until night his glory proclaims. While night until night his
One, go. And so there's a lot more solo interest, 34 bars rest. Have a look at page 16. I have known choral societies not really follow what's going on, even though they've got all of the those bars in front of them. The cue is really simple. It's in the 3rd bar with the pauses. To wake up is when the soprano reaches the C sharp. But also, if I were a tenor or a bass, I would mark my score più allegro. It's hidden up there by the sopranos. What we're looking for is a real increase in energy and tempo. I'm going to try and find that moment. I think I found it. No, I haven't. Here it is. Here's the moment to wake up. And I'd at the moment be breathing out, now breathing in. That's where we'll have our tea break. So there are various ways. Different conductors have opinions, and sometimes we come to blows about where that più allegro starts. Listening to Marcus, he delays it to the last bar of that line. But I always start it, you know, basses, sometimes your colleagues are difficult to move. So it's better that you know the speed of your section from the outset. So basses, the heavens are telling the glory. It's a very fast 2. Let's have a look at the basses then. Here's the cue. Go. Heavens are telling the glory of God, the wonder of his work, the wonder of his work displays the firmament. Now, do you have a printing mistake of an ink splodge? I'm not sure where that's come from. It's just displays the firmament. So basses once more from your cue. the glory of God, the wonder of his work, the wonder of his work displays the firmament of. So tenors, yours is easy. Once the basses have got their new tempo, everything else slots in. The reason why the notes are different there at the end of that phrase is he's changing key. So let's have tenors and basses. We'll do the cue as well. Go. Heavens are telling the glory of God, the wonder of his work displays the firmament. And now let's have a look at the alto part. One, two. In that bar of splays the firmer, make sure you don't stress each crotchet equally. Splays, fur are your moments of stress in 2-2. So, altos and sopranos together now. And one, go. Just the sopranos, because we've got that note crossing again. Once more sopranos and basses. Well, sopranos and basses this time. Everybody then, and then we'll bring the orchestra back in. Oh, this is the ever cue. Let's hear that now with the orchestra. So we're back to listening out for ever. Obviously, as an erudite singer, you'll follow the whole thing if you had the whole thing to follow. Sublime moments. So it's nearly tea break time. Actually, I've overrun a little bit, but let's go back to the end of the recit and we'll sing up to that point.
Claiming us his power.
One, go.
Night unto night, his glory proclaims. By night unto night, his glory
Just going to fast forward through all of that beautiful bit. Pause bar. Ever pauses. So we've got quite an exciting second half because there's a long imitative section, but we can get there by 8 o'clock. Now, just before we have our tea break, let me give you some more information about next week. Today really is the end of this, I nearly said semester, the end of this term, but next week we've got a social evening, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about Spanish music and Italian music. In particular, I'm going to tell you about the research I've done on music from Catalonia, particularly with respect to Montserrat Abbey and Barcelona. Also, I'll throw that in context with Spanish music in a greater focus, and then I'll go on to talk about Italian music, particularly Italian opera, how Verdi paves the way for Verismo, and we'll listen to some Bellini, Donizetti, Verdi, and then we arrive at Puccini and La Bohème, and we're going to be in the end of La Bohème Act 1. And then whilst we listen to that, we're going to do some cooking. Now, you might not wish to join in with the cooking. If one person in Devon will volunteer to cook with me, I'll be really grateful, because it's very lonely cooking alone. However, I just have a hunch that most of us quite fancy some Italian food next week. So I'm going to give you a shopping list, and then we'll have our tea break. It's a very simple shopping list, and it goes really in the order that we use the ingredients. This is mainly the order that the food goes into. The pan, actually, I'll be using quite a large casserole dish. So a casserole dish is probably the way to go. You could do it in a wok, or you can do it in a large frying pan. You need an onion. Now, I'm not going to chop up an onion on camera, but I'm going to buy one of those pre-chopped onions. It avoids crying. And so if you want to get in Tesco's, I know you can get sealed packets of pre-chopped onions, but there's a lot of onion there. So onion, garlic. In order to save time, I'm not going to chop garlic on camera. I'm going to use a tube of easy garlic. Butter. Now, you can use something like Anchor Spreadable, but if you use real butter, that will bring out the whole North Italian flavour of the dish. Rice. I'm going to give you the names of 3 different types of rice. Don't use anything other than arborio, or if you can't get that, carnaroli, or if you can't get that, viale nano. And actually the late Carluccio used to swear by carnaroli or viale nano. The one that I can get here is arborio, so I'll be using arborio. It's to do with the starch content. An unwaxed lemon. Simply, I say unwaxed because at the end we might want to grate a little bit of lemon rind over the finished dish. But if you can't get an unwaxed lemon, and the waxed one is fine, and even lemon juice in one of those squeezes is absolutely fine. White wine. Now, you know that I gave up drinking 4 years ago. So how dare I go into Tesco's and I'm going to buy one of those tiny little bottles that's not a full bottle. And in the cooking process, all the alcohol will evaporate. So no alcohol will pass my lips. But white wine is a key feature. Next, stock. If you're a vegetarian, of course you can use vegetable stock. I'll be using chicken stock, probably from a stock cube. But the key to this dish is all about really good stock. If you can lay your hands on a really good chicken stock, then that's fine. Parmesan cheese. I'm not going to grate it next week. I'm going to buy a packet of pre-grated Parmesan. And then vegetables. I'm going to use spinach, only because I'm in a bit of a spinach phase at the moment, and it gives me lots of energy. You could use peas. There's a very nice Venetian dish called rissi e bissi, which is rice and peas. Or if you like mushrooms, the mushroom risotto is good too. Then some herbs. I'm going to use basil. I might also use pine nuts. It's a deconstructed pesto. Salt and black pepper. And I like to get one of those peppercorn mills. So that's it. Arborio rice is the key ingredient. If you want to add chicken, then do so. If you want to add fish, the Italians never put Parmesan cheese with fish. So adding seafood, leave out the Parmesan cheese. And we will cook risotto together whilst listening to Puccini. Whew. But let's have a tea break. You can unmute.
Stella, can you stop spotlighting? Because I'm giving you my screen back.
Okay.
Right.
Simon, are you still there?
Yes.
How do you spell those other two forms of rice other than arborio?
Oh, yes. It's CARNA O CARNA Carnaroli.
Yeah.
And the other one is Viale, VIALE, Nano, NANO. Those are the ones that really Italian use, and they're
Sorry,
difficult.
can you say this last word again? Somebody spoke across.
The sound's gone.
Was it Nani?
Nano, with an O on the end.
Nano. Nano.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll include that in the newsletter.
Excellent. Good idea.
I don't think I can get my computer in the kitchen.
No,
I
Mike.
think I can get my kitchen in my bedroom.
I think it's a case of watch and learn if you can't do it at the time.
Well, it's a.
I shall have a go.
Good.
I shall, but my kitchen's just over there. Sort of thing.
Oh yes. No, well, I can just take my laptop into the kitchen.
What I want to get hold of for next week is one of those big, in French it's called toque, big floppy hat. Big chef.
You should miss that.
And good news, I had a text on Tuesday morning to say I'm now eligible to apply for a vaccination.
Okay, good.
And so I went online and entered my postcode, but of course it's a new postcode, and the NHS computers did not recognise my postcode.
Oh,
But I've managed to get around it by using a Bodmin postcode, and I'm going next Wednesday lunchtime for my.
excellent.
I hope you're feeling okay on Thursday then.
Yeah, right.
That's really good news.
Doom and gloom.
I've got an
So how much rice do we need?
I would say 1 cup per person, and that's a very hearty.
Yeah.
That's a hearty amount.
Good.
I think 75 to 100 grams in metric, something like that, per person.
A good handful.
How long does it take to cook?
It's going to take, from the moment the onions go in to the moment it's ready, it's going to take 20 minutes, which is exactly how long it takes for Rodolfo and Mimi to decide that they love each other.
Tiny hand is frozen.
Yes.
Lovely.
I'm just going to get a drink of water.
Oh, I'm sorry I arrived so late, Stella. It took 20 minutes for it to load.
Yeah.
It kept telling me it couldn't do it.
Oh dear.
But I got here in the end.
Stella,
Yes.
if I turn off the spotlighting, does it turn everybody's spotlighting off?
No, I turn I spotlight Simon and I have unspotlighted him.
Yeah, but I was trying to find my way back to the large balcony as it vanished, and I just had an enormous Simon and a little row at the bottom. And I tried to find the spotlight. I lost everybody. It doesn't really matter. They're singing rather than me.
Can anybody see Simon? Because I've still just got his initials.
He's
Really?
definitely there.
I
saw him.
Well, not right now.
No,
I had that
An
problem
awful
last
lot
night,
of
Kathy.
feedback.
He needs to
Coming
speak
in.
to come on
There
the
is a lot of
screen.
feedback
His
tonight.
on at the moment. He's not.
his disc is there, but his face does I'm just getting a black screen with his SD on it.
I've got that for half the people now.
I can only see you, Kathy.
I can only see Mike.
I can see Stella,
sound
Kathy,
is
Simon,
terrible
and
tonight.
Paul.
It's
That's
like
all.
rain sound.
Well, I'm back, and if I just say a few words, then hopefully you can. I should pop up on the screen. I must say this large gallery is much better because I can see so many people, and I would say that at least 50% of what we do every week is about contact with people rather than making music. So it's nice to see as many people as possible, really. Just before we start, I've had two items of really shockingly bad news, which those of you who go to church, I know some of the churches in Devon are open. Our local church isn't open, so I'm not able to do a prayer request. But if you could please mention in your prayers Sue, and Sue lives in Dorset, and she had a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer, and as you know, it's a really fast one, and it's very difficult to deal with and to cure. And I've heard today that she's going into a hospice tomorrow for the final days, which is very sad. And also, if you could remember Roger, and Roger was one of my most important teachers. He was my third organ teacher. I was passed from my local church and started off very well, actually by a teacher who taught my dad as well. And then to the assistant cathedral organist, who then passed me up to the cathedral organist called Roger. And I heard recently, because I was asking after him, that just before COVID happened, he had a terrible stroke. And you can imagine for an organist, a stroke is the worst thing because you can't play. And not only can he not play, he can't speak either. And so he's had to go into a care home. But of course, then COVID happened. So he's lost all of his music, the power of speech, and nobody's been able to visit him. So if you could mention Sue and Roger in your prayers, please, that would be lovely. Let's move on. Mute, please. And we're now looking at the more complicated section of the Heavens Are Telling. We're on page 17. And just to make sure it doesn't go to sleep, let's just remind ourselves what it's going to sound like. That's a good waypoint. So With everybody muted, please, let's crack on, first of all, with the bass part. If you're not a bass, join in with the bass part. Ladies, probably an octave higher. This is top of 17, and 1, 2. Displays the firmament, displays the firmament. The next phrase, right the way down here, next system down, and 1. The wonder of his work displays the firmament. The wonder of his work, the wonder of his work displays the firmament. Displays the firmament. The wonder of his work displays the firmament. The firmament. Really strong bass part there, joy to sing. Stay singing with that, and we'll look at what the tenors do above. So it's tenors starting here, basses. So both parts, page 17, and 1, 2. Next phrase down to the next system here, and 1. Unusual tenor part there at the end. Displays the firmament. A joy to sing though. Once more, then we'll look up at the alto and the soprano parts, page 17, top, and 1, 2. Firmament. 1, 2, 3. I'd like everybody with a real score to, if you're there, you sent me a scan last week, 2 weeks ago. There's a moment that really worries me. I've got a misprint, and it's page 18, bar 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The reason I hesitated over it because I thought that can't be right. Anybody who knows anything about harmony and counterpoint would say it can't be right that Haydn has written consecutive fifths.
Simon, because I haven't got the whereabouts is that
Oh,
I haven't got page numbers.
By the time I've explained it, everybody else will have logged off. Don't worry. Let's move on. We'll just do those parts once more, and I'll check it somehow on IMSLP. But I'm sure it's a whopping mistake, either from the editors here or from the pen of Haydn. But it's highly unlikely that Haydn would have done it. So basses, and 1, 2. Tenor. The wonder of his work displays the firmament. 1, 2. Next line. 1. Go on to the altos and sopranos. Again, don't think of this as crotchet plus crotchet plus crotchet. Be as musical as you can in the phrasing. Straight in with the soprano entry, and 1. Let's hear that once more. Same again, and 1. And the next phrase from the altos, have a listen. We're now in A minor, and the soprano's pitching an F here. So alto entry, and 1. Now, altos, every alto I know on the planet enjoys the top of page 18 of his work displays the firmament. So you enjoy that bit too. Let's run that once more and then we'll bring the orchestra in. So we're starting soprano entry, alto entry. Second line down of 17, and 1, 2, go. There's a moment that I know sopranos you will get right, but I have heard choirs get it wrong. Sopranos, top of 18, last 2 bars going onwards, because there's a counting issue. Have a listen to this. And 1. It's not actually all that difficult. Let's just run altos and sopranos from the last 3 notes of 17. And 1. So let's go now to bring the orchestra back. Hard to know where. I might have gone back too far. Oh, I've not gone far enough. I've gone back too far. Here it is. Basses. Let's do that a few times. A thought occurred to me halfway through that. If there were only one piece of music ever, or if we were stuck in Groundhog Day, when we could only perform one piece of music, do you know what? I'm quite happy that it's this one. Let me just start. Basses, get ready. Now. now it's time to look on at what happens next. And we have 20 minutes, so it is achievable that we'll get through to the end and do a performance of the whole thing. Basses, have a look at what you do next. It involves some very beautiful chromatic moments. So have a listen to that once more. And then looking ahead, the rest is really easy. I'm trying to find a waypoint. I think the end of the second line of page 20 is a good place to stop. So basses, and 1, 2. The wonder of his work, the wonder of his work, displays the firmament. The heavens are telling the glory of God, the wonder of his work, displays. And the firmament, the wonder of his work, the wonder of his work, displays the firmament. And we'll stop there and put the coda on at the end. So let's just run that once more, bring the tenors in after we've run it once more, basses. If you're not a bass, join in anyway. It's such great music. Bottom of 18, and 1, 2. Wonder of his work, displays the firmament. The heavens are telling the glory of God, the wonder of his 1, 2, 1, displays this 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. The firmament, the wonder of his work, the wonder of his work, displays the firmament. Off. Let's have a look at what the tenors do. And I'll play the bass part as well, so we can have both parts together. Tenors, starting here, the wonder of his work. But look, you start after everybody else. So basses, and 1, 2. The wonder of his work displays the firmament, displays the words are all wrong. Let's just try that once more, and 1, 2. The wonder of his work displays the firmament, the firmament. The heavens are telling the glory of God, the wonder of his work displays the firmament, displays the firmament, displays the firmament. The wonder of his work displays the firmament, the firmament, the heavens. And that's our waypoint. I like the way you hint at the original tune every so often. Once more, tenor and bass. And 1, 2. The wonder of his work displays the firmament, the firmament. The heavens are telling the glory of God, the wonder of his work displays the firmament, displays the firmament, displays the firmament. The wonder of his work displays the firmament, the firmament, that's our waypoint. Altos and sopranos. Have a listen and sing if you like. Same place, bottom of 18, sopranos and altos. And 1, 2.
So there's a few going on in there. I'm going to stop when you are. That's his first.
Let's just do that once more. Somebody's not muted. It's lovely, but it's not quite meshing together. So here it is once more, bottom of 18, and 1, 2. Just need to look at the alto part, page 19, second line down. There's a glorious moment. I think it might be doubled by brass, actually. It's a really straightforward moment, but underneath you have this going on. And you can imagine Haydn saying, yes, I think I've done well with that little harmonic unit. So I think it's time now to bring the orchestra in and take it up to that waypoint. And hopefully when I press play, it should be exactly bottom of page 18. Here are notes. Basses, altos, sopranos, and tenors starting a few beats later. Let's go. 19. That just captures the energy in this music. There's a thing that tenors do on top A's. Bottom of 19, plays the firmament, displays. I can't do it. I have to go into falsetto. But there's this thing that real tenors can do, and it's not falsetto on that top A. Make that shine through the texture. Let's go again. Altos, did you see what I mean with the heavens are telling the your F to F sharp is a moment of sunshine. Let's just go back and capture all of that. Now. Alto. So let's look at the coda, and we've been building it up from the basses, so let's do that again. Basses, let's start with the firmament. So here it is, and 1, the firmament, the heavens are telling the glory of 1, 2, 3, the wonder of his work displays the firmament, displays the firmament, displays the firmament. There's a lot of counting to do here, and it's very easy to do at 2 in a bar because you know where the first beat of every bar is going to come. So again, basses, the firmament, and 1, the firmament, the heavens are telling the glory of God, the wonder of his work displays the firmament, displays the firmament, displays the firmament, displays the firmament, off on the second beat. Now the tenors, you hint at them at the opening, the heavens, but then you get stuck on a C. and there's lots of counting. So here's the tenor part from the heavens. And 1, 2. The heavens are telling the glory of God. His work displays the firmament, displays the firmament, displays the firmament. Now you've got a lot of notes that spell out the chords. You've got harmony notes. It doesn't make a beautiful line to sing, but your top G's and top F's and top E flats really shine through in this. So let's do it once more. Altos, you can be tenors if you want at this point. And 1, 2. I'll sing with you this time, same again. And oh, before I do that, there is a moment that will wrong foot you if you've not prepared it. Look at God at the end of line 3, C sharp tied over God, coming down to a B natural where you meet with the basses, but the basses are on a B flat originally. So we all come together here, and it's unless you've mentally prepared it, the second bar at the bottom line is quite tricky. So tenors from the heavens, 1, 2. Heavens are telling the glory of God. Here, the wonder of His work displays the firmament, displays the firmament, displays the firmament. Let's have a look now at what the sopranos and altos do, which by comparison is much easier. Last note of line 2, and 1, 2. Here's a thing for you to think about when you're sitting quietly going through what we've just done is, and this is not just sopranos, it applies to everybody. I'd like you to look at what the sopranos do when they reach the note E, which actually is difficult for a soprano to sing because it's in the passaggio, that split between chest and head. But they sing, the heavens are telling the glory. And then for the next line and a half, they just sing an E. But look at how many ways Haydn harmonizes that note. I'll play it for you. And then it moves. I'll just do that once more because I played a C sharp when it should have been a C natural. Yes, it's the altos because you sing an A sharp. Have we done that? Yeah, we have done the altos. So we're ready now to hear the final section, and it should be paused there. Tenors, you're probably going to join in with are telling. So it's the last beat of line 2 here. before we do anything, I'd like to go a few times through this much longer, more difficult section. So back to page 16. When I say a few times, there's time to go once through this more difficult section. That's page 16. Now on to page 17. So there's just time before 8 o'clock for us to go back to page 14 and sing our whole thing, which means we do need to count the 34 bars in the middle, but that's easy because of the ever cue. So here's the end of the recit.
Divine, proclaiming thus his power.
One, two. One, two.
Day unto day is speaking his praise. While night unto night his glory proclaims.
Get ready.
Night his glory proclaims.
Ready? Don't forget to change gear into a faster tempo. One, two. was a live performance in Southwell Minster 5 years ago. Now, what I recommend you do now is to go onto iPlayer and try and find a program that's just finished. Between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock tonight, the Hairy Bikers have been in St. Petersburg, and I've stumbled across the Hairy Bikers this week. They were in Poland, and that brought back lots of happy memories. Then yesterday they were in Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And in fact, they've done the whole itinerary of a Baltic cruise. And I started in 2000 doing classical music themed cruises around the Baltic, specialising particularly in St. Petersburg. So tonight, the Hairy Bikers have just finished doing their St. Petersburg programme. Catch it if you can, because it's not just about Russian food, it's all about Russian culture as well. And next week, don't forget, we're going all Mediterranean, Spanish music, some memories that I've had from doing Mediterranean cruises, which, to be fair, there's more sunshine than on a Baltic cruise. And hopefully, just to capture the flavours of Northern Italy, a risotto. And it can be any type of risotto you like. I'm going to do a spinach risotto, but if you want to put prawns in, then by all means do so, or mushrooms. So it's a risotto cooking fest next week. Thank you for cheering me up with Haydn tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next week with your frying pans at the ready. Good night.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you,
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Simon.